Hello and welcome to Bristol Sport TV's new series, Meet the Boss. Well, whilst we're all continuing to live life through this global pandemic of coronavirus, we thought it would be a good opportunity to find out a little bit more about our key partners and sponsors. Find out how they've been coping through the current crisis, but also why they got involved with our sporting group in the first place. Well, I'm pleased to say that joining me today is Heather Noguera. Heather works for Hanes Brands, UK and Ireland, and part of that group is, of course, the sports bra brand Shock Absorber. Shock Absorber is the front of shirt sponsor for our Bears women's rugby team and also shirt sleeve sponsor for City Women. So Heather, hello to you. Thanks for joining us. And I understand it's been a very, very busy time for Shock Absorber.
Hi, Lisa. Yes, nice to be here and thank you for having me. When the whole coronavirus started in March, obviously a lot of our brick and mortar customers closed their doors, and we all thought, well, we're in for the long haul now for the next 3 months of not getting much sales. But as people started exercising at home and online became more and more the go-to place, Shock Absorber was just incrementally increasing in sales right through the whole period, and we did phenomenal sales in April and May. And I think it's thanks to a lot of our groundwork that we've done over the last 18 months on Shock Absorber. Previously, we had positioned ourselves as a more lifestyle brand, but 18 months ago, we decided to reposition ourselves and look at more professional women in the sporting arena. And through that word of mouth and that aspiration of looking at professionals, the fans would then join forces and start wearing Shock Absorber too. And it has really paid off that foundation of work that we've done over the last 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we first met and we started talking, you know, if you've been involved in professional sport, I think a lot of people are familiar with the Shock Absorber brand, but that was a very deliberate positioning by yourself and Hanes to think, actually, we're going to target this market and really position ourselves, aligning ourselves to professional sports teams.
Correct. We just saw that women's sport is becoming more and more so important in the lives of women, not like it was a number of years ago where it was all about the male sport, but women are coming to the fore globally on the global platform. And we felt that having a partnership with a key rugby team as well as a football team, we'll be able to educate not only the players but also their fans on the importance of wearing a sports bra.
No, I remember the very first meetings where you came in and spoke, and I know there was a few of my male colleagues that all sort of started to feel slightly uncomfortable, but all the women were nodding very vigorously about how important it is to have the right bra for running in. And I think that has been a big part of raising that consciousness, because I think, you know, so often you'd see women not actually protecting themselves. And you know, at the end of the day, I know that wonderful video that you guys produced where you showed, you know, the boobs and the relevant bouncing that you can do. They have to be nurtured.
Like soft little puppies in a blanket. So we do work significantly with the University of Portsmouth in terms of our research. So any new style that we bring out, the university actually tests it for us, goes through rigorous testing with our design team to make sure that we live up to our promise of, you know, protecting your breasts.
You mentioned the research work that you've been doing there with the university, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's one of the things that you were particularly interested in with our sportswomen, particularly from the rugby side, was so much has been talked about boobs bouncing up and down, but actually the impact measure as well of playing a contact sport.
Correct. So we have decided to put an innovation into the pipeline where it's not only about bounce control, but also impact control. So we've put the challenge forward to the design team. They are working vigorously on that, but I don't think we're going to have anything to present to the players until towards the end of next year. It's a little bit more challenging than simple put a breastplate in there in the front of the bra. We've got to make it comfortable to wear as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, you know, that has a very serious medical side effect, doesn't it, in terms of taking impact and knock to your chest area. Not, you know, for females, it's actually far more significant because of, you know, the studies that have come into impact in terms of links to cancer.
We've got another brand ambassador who's Olympic on the GB rowing team, Holly Hill. and she was actually incapacitated for 3 years. She actually had rib and chest wall damage because of not wearing the correct bra. And once she got onto shock absorber, it has just changed her life. So she's actually been able to get into the Olympics, she can say, based on actually having the right support. So yeah, it definitely is. If you don't have that support, it can impact your performance on the field and off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that some of the work that we've done, since you guys have been involved with our sporting group is about brand ambassadors. And I know that a few of our players have featured in shock absorber sort of features for you. Just talk us through the thinking behind that, because that is really quite specific to our shock absorber partnership.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing having a shock absorber on a shirt, but living the brand and actually endorsing the brand through the brand ambassadors is really key. So Sophie, on the Bristol City women's side, who's the goalkeeper, Sophie Bagley, she's one of our brand ambassadors. And then Al Snowsill, who's the fly half on the Bristol Bears women team. She's a key ambassador for us, and all our ambassadors actually get on to their social media sites and talk about shock absorber and the benefits of wearing a sports bra. So it's not about us just putting a message out. It's about the people who are actually using the product who can endorse it. And that's important for us, because then it comes from a level of authenticity and honesty, and it's not about just marketing and putting a brand message out there.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about Ellie there. I mean, of course, she's a Welsh international in terms of that, playing and competing at the very elite level of her sport, as a professional rugby player for Bears, and Sophie as the goalkeeper for City Women. I think, were you surprised when you first came down? And I know that you guys came and delivered a talk to the athletes themselves. Were you surprised by some of the responses that you got from players, that perhaps it wasn't taken quite as seriously?
No, absolutely. And besides just having to talk with them, we fitted them out professionally, because I don't know if you know, but up to 80% of women wear the wrong bra size, not only sports bras, but any bra. So it was important for these athletes to make sure that they were getting the right bra before we gave them the product, but also to speak to them. And yes, they were all surprised. We even gave them a quiz and got them to test their knowledge after showing them the video, which was quite a lot of fun. But what was also nice is that they are such down-to-earth people. They are so engaging, and they're just looking for information. And it was just like having a friendly chat with the team. They were really awesome.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I know that they thoroughly enjoyed the sessions as well with you guys. And I know that the partnership has been a really positive thing, because I know that, from our sporting group point of view, there's been a real interest in aligning ourselves with brands that actually do have a relevance, in terms of having someone like you guys, or having someone like Yo Valley, who are front of shirt sponsors for City Women. It's a key part. It is about a partnership. It isn't just about pay us your money and you'll get displayed on the front of shirt.
It's about that key relationship that you build up, and as coming back to that authenticity and trust, not only between what players saying about our products, but it's also about the collaboration and the partnership. And I must say that the whole of the Bristol team, from you to Caroline, it's just been an amazing partnership. We just get excited when we have to come down to Bristol to meet with you guys and be part of your team and go to the actual matches. It's really an amazing partnership. So
anyone listening to you talk, it's probably fairly apparent that you haven't got a local West Country or even a UK accent. You're a bit far from your original home of South Africa. Talk us through because I would imagine in South Africa there's probably a very different focus, but I think you weren't working with Haynes over in South Africa. Just talk us through a little bit about how you've come to be where you are.
How far back would you like me to go, Lisa?
Well, I quite like finding out what got people involved in their current job. And normally people have an interesting backstory, those that have risen to the higher ranks of their organisations normally have a bit of a story behind. And often they find sometimes a diverse route into what is effectively retail sector. So what was your diverse route?
Well, absolutely. I've had a very diverse route. Started off studying Bachelor of Science in Zoology and Psychology, hoping to be a vet one day. But I got into the psychology side of it, and the consumerism pulled me. So I went into market research, and I did that for almost 15 years. I'm giving away my age here, but 15 years, yeah, and of those 10 in my own business. So that was a good grounding to understand consumers. And then moved into marketing and advertising with Gillette South Africa. So that was on the grooming side, male and female grooming, etc. But then knowing that they also had Braun products, Oral-B toothbrushes, Parker pens. It was a wealth of different products. And I think there's where I put my foot into sponsorship, where I was looking after the old Gillette World Sports Special and also the Gillette sponsorship of the World Cup football that they were quite involved with for a number of years. And then I went on my own again and was involved in sports nutrition and nutraceuticals and supplements, etc., etc. But the alcohol industry called me, and I joined Bristol in Cape Town as head of communications and marketing. And yeah, it was quite a different road because unlike the textile industry that I'm in now with lingerie, we had a lot of money to spend, and it was very a sexy market to be in. And did a lot of sports sponsorship there, as well as obviously sponsorship within the food side of it, complementing the wines, etc. And then I made my way to the UK 2 years ago because I felt it was time to start exploring the world and look for new opportunities and excitement across the ocean. Hoping to do some traveling at this stage, but coronavirus has put a stop to that for a while. So I'll just have to do some traveling in the UK, which I haven't seen much of. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, the UK is a wonderful place and very diverse. So, yes, you can do a lot of travelling around the UK. And of course, it is, once we do resume to some semblance of normality, Europe being on your doorstep. I guess from what you've spoken through there, it's interesting, the psychology part of it must have played an enormous part, actually, and you would have used extensively throughout all of your different jobs that you've had coming to this point, because the psychology of shopping is so huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to understand how your consumers operate, but more importantly, how your customers are. And you learn to adapt your way of working with people based on who they are. And it's quite interesting. I also did an MBA through an Australian university called Bond University. And I think together with the psychology and taking a step back when you're in meetings, you can actually see how people operate, and you tap in almost like a chameleon to change your ways, adapting to people to get the best out of them and making sure that that collaboration always works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very useful skill, just always getting around people to the way you want them to think rather than the way they want them to think. It's interesting, the comment you made about the sports sponsorship and effectively the available spend, the difference between, say, the alcohol industry and retail or the lingerie business effectively. How has that been a challenge in terms of coming into your role and deciding where to put, because everyone talks about return on investment. Everyone has those, those markers, but how did you decide this is where we're going to go and this is how we're going to cement ourselves into the UK and Ireland market?
So one of the things that I'm responsible for is taking a pot of money that I get given for the UK in terms of advertising expenditure, which needs to be divvied up across all the different brands, and having a look at shock absorber and the potential of this brand, not only the great intrinsic qualities and the performance of this product, but the fact that it had so much potential. So we put a lot of money behind the shock absorber brand, and we felt that of just doing a blanket awareness approach of going on TV or radio or print, etc., to actually get involved with people directly, because we wanted to get the product into people's hands so that they could wear it, feel it, understand it, and appreciate it. And by doing that, we felt that it was the brand ambassador route to go, as well as the sports sponsorship route, because not only did we need to get it into the normal everyday person who's dabbling in a little bit of exercise or sport, but actually into the hands of professionals, because professionals are the ones that create aspiration to the fans. And if the professionals are endorsing the brand, then that means that it gives that credibility to the fans as well. So we were starting to think about going into sports sponsorship when we got a call from Bristol Sports, from Caroline, to say, hey, are you interested in sponsoring us? And we thought, wow. So as people have said, well, why haven't you sponsored your local community and your local clubs, where we are in the Woking, Guildford area? And why Bristol? Simply because we got a phone call. So, and that relationship has just gathered momentum, and it's really been a great collaborative relationship, and we will continue with it. But we won't stop there. We will continue to look at other clubs, more closer to home, I presume, as well as far and wide, as we feel that we can work with someone. And it's so important that we have that collaborative relationship. We want to be involved with people, business partners who actually add value to our business. So we will continue with our sports sponsorship and our brand ambassadors. And hopefully we will gather momentum with our fans through that endorsement.
Yeah, well, there's a lesson in proactive calling, if ever there was one. It was good timing, as ever.
Absolutely.
In terms of, I mean, I'm aware in terms of, my experience, and I'm sure yours is fairly similar in the last, 20 or 30 years of seeing the rise in women's sport. We now do have women's sports ambassadors. It's just as normal to see a woman advertising sport as it is to be a man. But of course, the revenues are so much smaller. Where do you think women's sport and sports sponsorship is heading? Because it did feel very much like we were in the ascendancy in terms of where the Women's Football League had got to, and rugby league, professional sponsorship. They were becoming full-time professional players. And then coronavirus has hit. How do you see the market going forward? Do you think there'll be more input into women because actually, so many people have recognised the benefits of exercising, for example, through this pandemic? Where do you where do you see it going?
Like anything, we up for change, whether it's change in our lives, change in our working environment, change in how we do our shopping, because I definitely believe that people will be shopping online. They'll be going forward. Just because it's so painful these days to actually go into a store, it's easier to click a button at home. I think there will be change. I can't see that it will ever go backwards in terms of women's sport. It can only go forward, because otherwise, what is the point? And as you say, people are exercising more at this time and seeing the benefits of exercising. So it can only increase. And I think the following of women's sport will also increase as they become more and more professional. And as they become more professional, so the demand on sponsorship will increase.
Well, obviously, women's rugby has grown phenomenally over the last few years, and the success of the previous World Cup tournament and the viewership numbers for that, and of course football. In terms of where we've got to and our partnership with you guys, was it a sport that you'd already identified and thought, rugby, that's a growth area, that's where we're going to go to, or was it just serendipitous that it was part of our group?
I think it was a little bit of both, Lisa. We had definitely identified rugby as a sport we wanted to go into. We felt that it was, because of an impact perspective, we felt that it was important that the shock absorber, the shock being the key word here, actually prompted our thinking that we needed to go into sports where that is required. So whether it was boxing or rugby or judo, karate, whatever, you need a sports bra. But I think rugby was at the top, and it was a little bit of serendipitous, as you say, when I got a phone call from Bristol Sports to say, I think it just accelerated it rather than reinforced it, put it that way, at the time. But I do think that rugby is growing. As you say, it's grown phenomenally over the last 3 years, and it will continue to grow. And we are just so happy that we are actually part of it, and we will continue to be a part of it. Okay.
Obviously, we're a sporting group, so we've got a number of sports under the One Whole group. Hanes Brands is similar. Just talk us through some of the other brands that come under your remit. And I know, of course, obviously we have basketball, you have Champion.
We have spoken about that, Lisa. I remember coming to one of the games and seeing all the basketball players wearing all different socks of all different colors. And I went, there's an opportunity. We really need to get in there. So yes, watch this space. We've got some new socks coming out, basketball socks that we've asked to be developed specifically for the team. And that's coming out the January, I think, our summer season, which comes out in January. We've got some great basketball socks there, and nice big C's on the back and Champion. And if you all coordinated, it's going to look amazing, especially with
I'm
that
sure
fast-paced
Caroline is going to
environment
be
of the
very
guys.
interested. I'm sure there's
Are
going to
you
be a call
vacuuming to
coming your way
Claudia?
straight after this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I look forward to the Hanes Group expanding their sponsorship into our Flyers team as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, our other brands, Wonder Bra, won't be playing any role on the field or on the court, but definitely with the fans. But yeah,
I do
Champion is
think
definitely.
maybe the Wonder Bra's got the opportunity. You mentioned Wonder Bra there. I mean, in terms of moments of advertising, if you like, and this is probably dating me in terms of an age, you know, that was probably one of the most famous and iconic ads. I think it was Eva Herzegovina posing in her Wonder Bra.
Yeah, hello boys.
It's interesting that hello boys. It's interesting how during lockdown that's changed. So the shock absorber brand has probably risen to the fore, if you like. Well, we're all, you know, exercising in behind closed doors, and maybe the shock absorber will continue, but maybe Wonder Bra will come back out as everyone does come back out to play, so to speak.
Yeah, not that I want to labor the Wonder Bra point because it's not part of Bristol Sports yet, but definitely we launched a shock absorber direct-to-consumer website in December last year. So it was just in time for the coronavirus lockdown. So we were pumping shock absorber bras. And on the 22nd of this month, we launched our Wonder Bra direct-to-consumer site. So just in time for ladies going out in July into the summer sun with their sundresses and requiring a strapless bra or a low plunge or a backless bra. Yes.
And it's interesting in terms of, I mean, obviously, Wonder Bra isn't a part of our group yet, but the change in thinking in terms of advertising and marketing, and obviously that's all your background, that skew to take cognizance of the change in terms of female empowerment. And, you know, whereas the Eva advert was hello boys, about looking good for the boys, actually there has been an incantation and a modernization of that.
I'm glad you mentioned the word female empowerment because I'm going to come back to that point just now. But yes, when I was looking at Wonder Bra and what we needed to do with that and looking at the evolution of women's psyche over the last few years, it's not about pleasing the male gaze anymore. It's about making ourselves feel sexy for ourselves, which was so important to change the position of Wonder Bra then. So it's about inclusivity of various groups of women, whether from an ethnic background or sizes. You know, it's all about no matter who you are, body is beautiful. And you need to celebrate that. But you can feel sexy in a Wonder Bra, whoever you are. And coming back to your point just now in terms of female empowerment, when we were launching going from the evolution from Hello Boys, we looked at rather Hello Me. So it's about looking inside ourselves and for that sexiness and getting self-fulfillment rather than doing it for the boys. We did get a lot of women's groups coming back to us and saying, you know, are you just using this as a ploy, as a marketing ploy? But we really weren't. We really are celebrating women in this new way of, in this new world. And more so as we come out on the other side of this very changed world that we're going to be facing soon.
Heather, it's been really interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to catching up once seasons resume.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me.
Well, that's it from Meet the Boss for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I'm sure a few of our male viewers have found out more than they ever thought they needed to know about women's underwear. Well, don't forget to subscribe to our social channels so you can stay across all of our latest breaking news. But for now, stay safe and see you next time.